Start with a yawn. That's what they say in show business. Always start with a yawn. Leave them wanting more. Professionalism. That's the system.
Hi guys.
Hi.
It is the 1st of June. It's day 73 of lockdown, but it is the first day of slight easing of lockdown restrictions, which has meant that we had a little visit over to my parents' garden this evening, which was lovely, absolutely lovely. Ordered a takeaway to be delivered and we all ate it in the garden and it was absolutely lush. Seeing other humans, but all being able to sort of hang out and sit down, and they've got a nice big garden, so that was all good. It was really lovely. The one thing that was, which we anticipated would be a challenge, as I said previously, my niece is 5. Turns out 5-year-olds, not great at the old social distancing.
Last time you saw her, she was 4 as well.
Yeah. So yeah, pity help a teacher that's got 15 of them to deal with at once, because that was
supposed to have been starting today in England.
Basically impossible.
Yeah, today in England they're supposed to be having people back in schools and all the kids are supposed to be social distancing, but
no way are you gonna get kids.
5-year-old niece who hasn't seen her aunt in 5 weeks.
5, more than 5.
Sorry, in 5-year-old week, hasn't seen her aunt in like 10 weeks, and she was, wanted to have cuddles.
Yeah.
And wanted
to play, and even when she was sort of playing, like sort of coming closer and closer, and we felt really mean being like.
And was sad when she had to go to bed and couldn't, have a.
But one thing that was really lovely this time round was like we can do this again now, because like when this all kicked off, we didn't know we weren't going to see each other for a long time. So I didn't sort of have I'm not going to see you for a long time, but we'll see you again. Like I just stopped being around for a long time, and she stopped being allowed to sort of go over to Auntie, because like I say, we don't live far, and she would sort of occasionally be like, can we go to Auntie Ellie's, or can Auntie Ellie come over or something, which obviously she hasn't been able to do. And then I think it was absolutely lovely to see her. It was really it was nice. Actually, all of this evening was lovely.
It was.
Just being able to sit with family was an absolute tonic. It really, and like I've said, over the last few days, things have been getting a bit tense. Not with us specifically, but just with everything. And I think it was a real nice release of pressure to just. It didn't feel quite like normal, because we were sort of having to be conscious about but it wasn't too bad. Putting the seats where they needed to be and kind of easy enough to sort of sit in your seat and talk.
But it wasn't. It's hard to kind of maintain social distance when you're kind of sharing a takeaway and when you're sitting in a. I mean, like you mentioned, they've got quite a big garden. For people whose gardens aren't as spacious, it must be even harder.
Yeah, and actually, the main reason that they've sort of said that you're allowed to meet outdoors is that it seems to be, the evidence seems to suggest that the virus doesn't last very well in sunlight, but they didn't sort of put a curfew that means you can't be out in nighttime with.
No, the sun had gone in, didn't it?
Yeah, because we sort of went over about 7ish, and yeah, we had dinner, and yeah, I think we left. Well, it was about it's a little bit after 10 now, so we probably left at about 10:45ish. Yeah, it was dark, but there was no curfew on the being in other people's gardens thing, so made the most of it. But yeah, it is tricky. I've had a bit of wine, and I've just realised I look and sound like I've had a bit of wine. But yeah, sitting in the sun with wine, it goes right to your head.
I'm running ciders, and that's why, even though it's just about is it 10:30 now, maybe?
Give or take,
even
yeah.
That? And we are both feeling a bit sleepy. Yeah. Which normally we're up to about 2, 3 in the morning.
I am ready for bed.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically as soon as we came in, it's all bin day, so we had to put the bins out. So we had a nice little maggot encounter with the food bin, so that was fun.
Honestly, I understand that we're all supposed to divide our waste up a bit more than we used to, and not just put everything in the one bin, and that involves, and it's for the good of everyone, and recycling and all of that, and food waste. But honestly, when it involves dealing with maggots in your life, it does feel like society's gone backwards.
Yeah, I think the trouble we have is we've got plenty of cats, and you just can't leave wet cat food out without flies laying eggs in it. And even though we're sort of being really careful to sort of only put a little bit out and watch them eat it and then give them more if they nag for it, it never, like, guaranteed eventually one of them will leave a little bit of something, and you like literally you can't leave it down for any length of time. You look at it and you can see the eggs, so obviously immediately put it in. So I've, like, rather than putting it in our kitchen like caddy, put it straight outside. But obviously given a week, them's be maggots.
Right, it's full of maggots.
I really hate maggots. There's something like quite
Visceral,
primally disgusting about maggots. I think it's like a
real kind of horror.
Yeah, like, oh, that is definitely something I want nothing to do with on a very basic instinctive level. So that's grim. So yeah, put the bins out, and then I've just come in and I've just gone, can we blog like now so that I can go to bed soon? So here we are.
Is it?
No.
If you're watching this, thank you.
Yeah, well, we'll get it done. And I'm sure, like I did sort of say, I'm sure once I'm sort of sat and talking, it'll be fine. But yeah, just very like, oh, I could go to bed. I did a fake yawn then, but that made me real yawn. That's not good. So yeah, so I think, like, going back to sort of real world stuff, judging that evening, which was lush, it was absolutely lush, and I really appreciate that we've been able to do it. Yeah, I don't envy a teacher who's trying to, because Ari is 5, so she's in reception level, which is one of the years that they are having go back to school. Years reception 1 and 6 are the years that they've had go back today in England. And it's one thing when you're an adult and the child is coming towards you and you can sort of say, okay, move back a little bit, or whatever. Kids aren't going to do that with each other. They're going to make a beeline for each other. So the idea, any semblance of social distancing at schools is an absolute farce. That's just not possible. And with that age group of pupils, it's like they've picked the most unlikely to be able to social distance group.
And your mum pointed out as well, it's not just the kids, is it? It's the parents dropping them off and picking them up again.
Yeah.
And your dad, very sort of his generous take on the situation was, well, you know, I'm sure they can be, you know, they're grown-ups, they can be relied upon to social distance. And I was like, well, you've not been in the supermarkets as much as I have.
No.
And all these mums or dads who are dropping off their kids,
it's still people gathering, isn't it?
And they're going to be, some of them in a hurry, presumably, because they've got to get to work or get to somewhere else. They're not going to be waiting in orderly 2-meter queues to drop off each child. It's just not happening. And
yeah, the whole idea, it's just a nonsense. There's no way that can be effectively managed on any level of social distancing. So then your thinking is they are just choosing to have that melting pot of intermingling, which, like, if that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. But then if you're gonna do that anyway, allow people to see their loved ones, like, allow people who are living on their own to have maybe one other nominated person in another household that they can have physical contact with.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it worked out, like, they did talk about it in a few different newspapers, which was also a bit farcical, that technically it is now currently in all of Britain illegal to have sex with someone you don't live with. Obviously, it's illegal to hug someone you don't live with. But, like, that's mad, isn't it? Like, so you could be in a relationship that you've been with someone for years and you're not allowed to
We just have to have sex with each other now. It's a joke.
Yeah, it's a real joke.
Absolute nightmare.
Really fed up of it, actually. I'm not. It's fine.
It's fine. Oh, good.
It'll do.
Oh.
That's the highest praise you're going to get publicly.
Called me Captain Fuck the other week on this very vlog.
Yeah, but you've got that. You like that a bit too much. He keeps mentioning that. Can't have that.
But
Corporal fuck. Is that higher or lower than captain?
That's terrible. State of affairs.
But yeah, so that's mad, because you'd have to just sort of think, well, if you haven't seen your partner in weeks and weeks, well, months, literally months, at least 2 and a bit months, like, we're all grown-ups. Like, I think that's an unrealistic excuse me, I've got hiccups now
And
as well.
meanwhile, they're
Unrealistic
saying, well,
expectation.
footballers can come and do contact sport, and children can all go back to schools, and teachers can come back and teach them, and cleaners can come into your house to clean, but you can't see your partner.
Yeah.
It's just...
It's the priorities are wrong, aren't they? Like, and I understand, like, I would understand more, oh, it's for our safety, if other decisions that were being made were
if it was all consistent.
safe. But children of that age going back to school, there's no way. And yeah, the argument might be, well, children, even if they catch this, it doesn't tend to affect them very badly, but they're still going to pass it on, and that's still... Okay, you got 15 kids in one classroom, so with the teacher that's 16 households all intermingling. So if you've got a kid that's going to school, you might as well have your boyfriend over, I think, because like that's one person who's an adult who's like able to vaguely social distance. If you've got a kid that's going to school, you might as well be intermingling with all of those parents and all of those children.
Yeah.
Like, because they aren't capable of social distancing,
Well,
and that's not criticising them. They're 5.
And
it's
meanwhile,
like, I don't really expect them to be able to.
Meanwhile, my nana isn't supposed to leave her house or see anyone, and it's... Or your...
My
grandma,
gran, yeah, she's not allowed out, and it's...
And when you look at it, go back a few weeks, and you go, well, nothing. There was no sport happening. There was nothing happening. No one was allowed to do anything, and you go, well, it's consistent across the board. We're all supposed to lock down, and unfortunate for the people who are on their own or whatever.
But yeah,
it's
for the people who are still...
We're all in this together. But then you go, well, hang on, but that person's allowed to go and earn millions of pounds as a footballer, and he's a...
My neighbour's got her cleaner coming in, but my daughter can't come in. Like,
it's getting silly, really.
Yeah, I think all the way through this, particularly from the English government, there's just been so many mixed messages, vague ideas, muddied waters when it comes to sort of clarity as to what you can and can't do. And like if it's just no, you're not allowed, that's easy to understand. But when you start sort of saying, oh, you can do this, but you can't do that, but you can do this, and then some of the things that you are allowed to do are very much counterintuitive to what we're being told is safe to do privately and in your personal life. And it all boils down to money exchanging hands. Like, you can't see your boyfriend, but you can have your cleaner in. Well, that's mental. That just doesn't make sense. The cleaner could be going to 15 different houses in a week, and you're allowed to have her in your house, but your boyfriend, who maybe works from home and just does his like once a week trip to the shops, you can't have him in because of the risk. I was like, well, it's either a risk for everyone or it's not a risk, but it's like, oh, it becomes less risky when money is exchanging hands. Like, be honest about it. Be like, well, it's for the economy. We're putting the economy first rather than your well-being. So fuck you all. It just doesn't hold water, and no wonder people are fed up with it and flouting it, because it doesn't make sense. It's not really well justified, and it isn't even very clear as to why you are allowed to do this but you're not allowed to do that, because there's been so many mixed messages. And like the fact that they have today, 1st of June, done the things they said that if it was safe to do by the 1st of June they will do. They're still on risk level 4, which they shouldn't be easing any lockdown measures at risk level 4. They were supposed to be easing some lockdown measures once it got to 3, but basically they've said
lockdown measures if
the R rate allows and if the science allows, but it seems like they've just thrown that out the window now. I think maybe they needed to do some stuff to take the heat off the Dominic Cummings situation. They needed to give people something to talk about and something to do.
And soon we can all talk about the second wave, can't we? And the next
fun.
spike and the additional lockdown.
It's just any semblance that this has been for our benefit and for our safety and following the science has gone out the window. It is now just, we'll do as we're told because we have to, but there is no sense of we're all in this together and this is fair and this is justified, because it doesn't make sense what some people are allowed to do and some people aren't.
Do you know what I can see happening as well now?
What's that?
With the schools coming out, I was thinking about it. We were talking about like mums picking up and dropping off by the schools, and like how impractical it is for them to kind of maintain social distance. And I can see things are going to come as they try and sort of bring things back to normal. Actually trying to follow the rules and maintain the difference is going to be so inconvenient and difficult that if you try and do the right thing, you'll be the one who's seen to be being awkward.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then
well, it already is a little bit like that, isn't it? Like if
bit,
you're
yeah, if
in
I
the
go
supermarket
to the shops,
and you're the one going, oh, 2 meters, please.
Can you wait until I've done that? Grab this, and then you can have, and then
yeah, you're
people,
already the
I'm
arsehole.
just trying to get this thing, and it's well, but there are rules, and we're trying to. So it's, and that's the thing, and it's not awkward. It's not rules for the sake of rules. It's like I keep saying, I feel like in some ways I'm being made to feel like a curmudgeon about this when other people are breaking the rules and I'm the one who's being a bit uptight. But it's not rules for the sake of rules.
No.
It's not being petty. It's going, this is for our safety and the safety of other people. And
I have to say the fact that I have so carefully followed those rules does give me peace of mind on an evening like tonight when I'm able to be in the vicinity of my parents. Who are both in their 60s, which, like, it seems like the main risk is from 70 and up, but, like, 60s is a higher risk than if you're in your 30s. And I've got the relative peace of mind that I very much doubt that I have had any risky behaviour that means that I could be bringing something to them. The more you follow the rules, the quicker we get out of lockdown, but also the peace of mind you have when they do relax lockdown restrictions so that you can see those people that you've been missing.
Where the problem lies, though, and where the frustration lies, is where, for example, I've had to be the one going out to the shops to get groceries, and essentials that we need, and I made the decision to be sensible. I'm wearing a mask. I've decided that I want to maintain social distance, but then other people are in a position to take that decision away from me or make that decision for me, and they go, no, I've decided that you're not going to be allowed to social distance because I'm going to brush past you. I'm going to see you're stood 2 meters apart from people in a queue, but then I'm going to walk within inches of you along the side of the queue. I'm going to sneak up behind you in a wood and breathe on your fucking neck.
The thing that I'm doing there is I am clinging to the only things that I have control over, so I'm just not driving myself crazy with what other people are doing.
I get that, but obviously when you're out there, it's very frustrating. We're like, I don't want to be this close to you. Do you know what I mean? It's very frustrating. And like I keep saying, I can't tell you how much I'm not looking forward to getting back on public transport at some point. So
no,
it's going to be a laugh.
Oh, I don't look forward to that. But we don't know when that's going to be. And actually, the way things are going, I think we're looking at a second wave before. Well, maybe you'll get to go back for a while, but I just don't think we're looking at normality for a long time.
The thing is, like,
so I'm going to enjoy the garden visits while I can do them.
Another thing that occurs to me now that worries me a bit is that we keep saying the mistake we made with the whole first wave is we didn't get in lockdown quick enough and firm enough. But already we're kind of disengaging when it feels like the R rate is still too high and everything, the threat level isn't low enough, and we're still going...
Our levels of new cases a day are still higher than they were when we went into lockdown, and we went into lockdown late.
So at what point do we go, oh, it's time to go back in? Because it's already going to be too late again, right? And it's like, well, we should... things are worse now than when we went in, and we're coming back out. That's not...
I looked at a graph today that showed all of the major European countries that have had outbreaks, and when they closed schools and when they reopened schools in terms of new confirmed cases per day, and everybody else who has opened schools, at least partially open schools, way lower on that. Our graph is just out on its own, doing its own fucking thing, and it's just like, guys, have you learned no lessons all the way through this? We've been looking at other countries going, yeah, they did it better, and they're still doing it better, and we're still just going, nope, battle on, off you go. And I can't help but just think, well, this is deliberate. They want a second wave. They want.
Yeah, having gone into
They
lockdown
want
late,
to let us all catch it, and some of us die, and just but with the guise of, oh, we tried to stop you, and it's like they're going, no,
it's
wait,
it's
don't.
miserable to be one of the countries who went into this like fairly early on, who started getting infections sooner, and had to kind of deal with it pretty much blind without any sort of guidance or kind of. But the fact that we've got their example now set for it, we should be taking advantage of that fact.
Well,
you know?
Italy and Spain were the two biggest ones. They were ahead of us because of where they got the infections before we did, and actually for a while they were number 1 and 2 on the global scale of infections, and then the Brits and the Yanks just kind of crept up from the rear and overtook. But Spain are looking now at reopening for travel and for tourism, but we're banned. Brits will be banned, other than people, specialist workers on certain demographics, because we're a high risk area. And they were one of the worst hits, and they're now in a position where they're looking at reopening for travel and tourism. We're nowhere near that stage, and we're not going to get anywhere near that stage if we keep being wishy-washy.
And we're not going to be allowed to go to anywhere else.
No way. And I don't blame them. They're doing the right thing by not letting us in. It just sucks to be us. But yeah, it's because they have a mandatory 14-day quarantine period to anyone coming into the country at the moment. That's going to be lifted for everybody or most places on the 1st of July, I think it was. But the States and Britain are on the no. If you're going to, it's basically you can't holiday here because you have to quarantine for 14 days if you're coming into the country. So if you're going to holiday for like 8 months, fine, but you'll have to do 14 days of quarantine first. But yeah, basically it means that nobody can holiday there. Unless you just want to spend your holiday in a hotel room.
I cannot wait until we see the first wave of sort of right-wing Brexiteer commentators going, oh, bloody Europeans, they're not even letting us over there for holidays anymore. And you go, well,
that's
of course not.
Of course they're not. Why would they? And another thing that also is a bit of a kick in the teeth to anyone who is a Remainer is the EU sort of hardship fund to every country that's had a big outbreak of coronavirus. I think it's about a 750 billion pound fund. So I think about 80 million of that's gone to Italy, billion, sorry. About 70 something billion's gone to Spain because they're the hardest hit countries. So that's about 90 billion that we would have been given to help us if we'd still been in the EU. But I have to say, they'll all get a bigger share of that pie, and they deserve it, and we don't. Like, not us as individuals, we wanted to stay in, but we voted out, we got out, and then we acted like a bunch of fucktards about all of this, so we don't deserve the help. We deserve to be left to rot, and everybody who's still waving their flags as like previous, but we were an empire. Yeah, we were an empire, and look at us. Like, we're an absolute shambles. I would be ashamed of us, except I don't really, like, I feel other. I feel like this isn't me. Like, I've been saying vocally all the way along, well, this is a bad idea.
Still, at least we've got our sovereignty back.
Yep, thank God. I'm money in the bank, that sovereignty.
You done much with your sovereignty lately?
Oh, what haven't I done with it? I've been rolling around in it, I have. Like, who gives a shit? Also, the idea that, we don't want to be ruled by unelected bureaucrats. Hello, Dominic Cummings. He's not elected and he's calling the shots. It's absolute bullshit. And it's farcical. It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic. Like, it's just absurd. And there's still people defending it, and I'm just like, oh, mate, like, go on then, whatever. Like, you are away with the fairies. This is absolute farce. It's just ridiculous, and we're handling it so badly that it's going to get worse. It's going to be worse. We might get lucky because it's a really hot summer that we won't get a second wave as soon as perhaps we might. But if we get that second wave in winter, when we'd also have worse health issues anyway, we'll be fucked. Absolutely fucked.
And if that
8 ways
second
from
wave
Sunday.
falls over Christmas and I can't go and see my family for Christmas, which I'd already booked the holiday for at the beginning of the year, I will be gutted.
Yeah. I guess if there's a second wave, that's the least of our worries. But that will be grim. That will be sad.
On a personal level, that's yeah.
Yeah. And so that's it's just the whole thing is just like you've got to find a way to just wash your hands of it, because like we can only do what we can do, and we've only got control over what we do, and when the rest of the country and the rest of the UK just make terrible choices, like the English government, I can't really, because I'm not speaking about Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland in that. England, I'm talking about England. Like, you're making bad choices, guys, and you're making it like it's like if you're doing it for the sake of how things look. Well, we said the 1st of June, so we better do the 1st of June. Nobody's gonna remember that. They're gonna remember that you mishandled it and there was a second wave. Basically, it's going to mean you're fucking the economy more. If you're trying to save some pennies in the short term, but you handle this wrong and it goes back into exponential growth, then lots of people are going to die, which should be your first worry. But also, you're going to fuck the economy much worse than if you just stuck to your guns in the first place.
Well, you see it all the time with video games, where they'll go, right, we promised we'd deliver this game by the 30th of September, whenever the release date is.
Yeah.
And so the game comes out, and it's not really finished, and it's buggy, and there's not enough content in there.
Well, like the movie Cats.
And it gets terrible reviews, and then they have to fix it down the line with sort of patches that you can download and things, and at which point all the fans are grumpy because we paid all this money for this game and it was rubbish, and you know.
Yeah.
And they go, well, but they rushed it
said,
out to meet the deadline, and I think like years from now, no one remembers.
What, that they got it out on time?
I tell you what I'll say for GoldenEye on the N64. It came out on the day it was announced, and that's people go, oh, N64 GoldenEye on N64, a brilliant game. Oh, amazing. And if a game comes out and it's really buggy and horrible, we go, oh, No Man's Sky, oh, it's rubbish. There's no content in it. It wasn't supposed to have all these things you could do, and there's nothing. And then they fixed it with patches months later, but by which time I'd sold my copy, I'd moved on.
Nobody gave a shit by then.
And no one remembers what the release date was. You know, it doesn't matter. And it's the same with this. No one's going to go looking back going,
oh, well done, they got the schools reopened really quickly.
Lots of people died, but fair play to them. 1st of June, as promised. Kids were back in primary school. 15th of June, unessential shops opened, and I think that was a big date for all of our calendars. Like,
so it's a big date for my calendar because it's my birthday.
Yes, well.
So thanks for that, English government.
You can do some unessential shopping on your birthday. What do you reckon?
I can't because I'm not in England.
Oh,
but that's fine. I don't want to do any non-essential shopping on my birthday anyway.
The thing is, we can all do non-essential shopping, can't we? We just do it online.
Do it online. Yeah.
And I realise it probably sounds quite callous if you sort of own or work in a shop, but I also work in a kind of quasi-retail environment. I work in an optician.
Oh, so yeah, I can't open my business for.
So we're not,
ever,
I don't want to make that sound like we're just kind of dicking on retail people when it's not our world, but like, it's.
The shops will be allowed to open sooner than I'm allowed to open, so I can be a bit callous.
And yes, and the shops will be allowed to open before I can go back and do live comedy.
Yeah.
So it's just. Yeah, follow the fucking
What
science.
a pair of grumps we get. Today's been a lovely day.
Yeah, I know. It's such a nice day.
We did, because even before we went over to my parents' house, we did a bit of filming.
Yeah,
so we actually, and we've mentioned it a couple of times, the Let's Remake a Film. We've actually filmed our stuff for those scenes for Let's Remake a Film now.
Yeah.
A few bits that we're going to need to do, and you need some editing to do, but we've filmed them, so that's exciting.
It's a bit tricky, because the scene we were given as 3 people in it, and there's only 2
of
us
in
this
household.
household.
We had to be quite inventive, / silly.
Found a guest star who's not afraid to break the guidelines. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And, but yeah,
it's amazing what you can do with a Hoover and some marigolds.
But so yeah, check out on Facebook the group. It's called Let's Remake a Film, and you'll be able to find out there when they will actually be showing this remake of Groundhog Day
Yeah,
made by
won't be for a couple of weeks because the
hundreds,
deadline for getting your scenes in is the 7th of June. So
and
then
they
they'll
need to
have to edit
piece
it all together, which I
but-
imagine is quite a big job.
Yeah, but it should be fun.
We
right?
will let
So-
you know when it's watchable.
Oh.
And I would think with that one, when it's watchable, probably want to catch it quite quickly because it
And-
probably won't be allowed to stay up for very long. Although they've been a bit more careful and a bit more savvy to the copyright rules this time,
Yes,
haven't
no
they? So
copyrighted sort of music or anything being used. So I hope it might be
might get away with it
that we can
for a bit.
it'll be on for a bit longer. But you know, watch it while you can.
Yeah.
And that was fun to film, although it did involve like Ellie wearing a coat in this heat.
Yeah,
or the
coat
heat of
and
the day.
gloves.
And
In the garden in full sun.
we did that in one take, didn't we?
Yeah,
We did
out
everything
of
in one take
necessity.
because
and
it was too hot.
I'd like to say it was pure talent, but I think it was just like, we got to get this. And then it was like, will that do?
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Oh yeah, that was unpleasant. It was so hot today. I think actually it's been hotter other days, but crikey, if you're actually out in the sun, oh god, hot, very hot. Oh, I don't deal with heat very well. But yeah, it's really toasty. There's just no clouds at all, just sun all day. But that's I guess that's good for killing viruses. If only we could get the sunlight somehow into the body through the skin or by some other means. Anyway, I think that's probably us done for today, isn't it?
Yeah, I reckon.
I can write a blip and go to bed.
I feel like the last few days we've been like slowly edging past the 32-minute barrier, being slightly like, oh, come on, we still got stuff to fit in. What more?
So we're like, yeah, we can
and
go
now
to
it's
bed
just
now.
like, done now. That'll do.
That'll
can
do.
I'll leave you to it.
So, bye. So yeah, guys, like and subscribe. There's no shame in it.